Hey everybody, it's Paul from Scott Family Amazeum. I am here today in Mojo at Mojo Cycling with the owner Dave. Dave has been gracious enough to let us come in and talk to him about cycling and all the groovy things that happen in cycling. It is an incredible thing here in Northwest Arkansas, and we are fortunate to have an expert talk to us today about some of the groovy stuff that happens with bikes.
Cool, thanks a lot, and I'll tell you guys whatever you want to know.
Yeah, well, you know, one thing we keep finding is that some of the activities we do at the Amazeum, people have a hard time sort of translating those into the real world. And we'll have in our tinkering hub, we'll have kids tinkering with tools, we'll have them building circuits, we'll have them, you know, building with simple machines and creating Rube Goldberg machines. And a lot of times they just go, well, you know, it looks like fun, but what's that look like out in the real world when you actually have to put those skills to work and figure out how something's working or not working? So that's a lot of what you do here at a repair shop, right?
Absolutely. We talk here about thinking about the bike almost like a puzzle. And when something's wrong, you have to kind of narrow down, and you think about putting each piece of the puzzle into place. And if the bike's not working, then what you need to do is find which one of those pieces of that puzzle is missing so that you can replace it or turn it around and put it in correctly, or however you want that metaphor to work, so that when everything's back together again, you get to go out and the bike does what you want it to do.
Yeah, so it's a process of elimination.
Absolutely.
So it's very scientific in how you go through, and you probably don't change 3 or 4 things at one time. You look at, you're trying to find the root cause.
Exactly.
So if you take too many things off, it may be any one of those things, so you kind of have to work your way through piece by piece.
Absolutely. This is called your derailleur, and this is what makes the gears change on your bike. And so someone will come in and they'll say, my gears aren't staying, I can't pedal it, it's popping and banging or whatever. And so first we'll look at one aspect of the derailleur, then we'll look at the cassette, which is these gears that the chain moves up and down on. And what we do is we tick each thing off as we look at it, and it'll be one of those issues, and we just have to narrow down what that is. And when we find that out, then we take care of the problem, and then we retune it so everything works right. And then when you get your bike back, it does what you want it to do.
Yeah, and I suppose that takes some time.
It does.
Yeah, because they're very complicated. You know, people think of bikes as pretty simple things, but they're really complicated collections of simple machines. And as complexity goes up, the tolerance for not working quite right goes up as well, right?
Absolutely. One of my favorite bike-related movies calls a bicycle wheels, like circles turning circles. Like, you think about it, there's all these circles and they're all working together, and each one is a little cog in the machine. And so what you want to do is make sure they all work together like a symphony, like everyone's tuned together so that when it plays, it works. And there's a lot of complexity. We've got hydraulic disc brakes now that go on the disc rotors, which are circles. And that's what stops you. And if they're not tuned right, you can have a really bad crash. You've got your gears that I just talked about. If all of these things aren't working in concert, then that's not functioning properly. So you've got all these individual systems that are all doing their job, and all of those systems have to come together to make it complete. This is a whole different world, and you have to, once again, be a mechanic for all those. Rebuilding a suspension fork, there are literally hundreds of parts inside of those things, and any one little thing can fail and make the whole thing not work.
Yeah, it's good to use that word mechanic, because I think sometimes, you know, it's hard. People think of just mechanic as somebody who works on a car.
Correct.
Right? They just, all they do is, there's a car mechanic, and even those have gotten so complex and so technical that there's an element of science, technology, engineering. There's art in it, and math as well, as you're working on any of these new complex machines. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between a road bike and a mountain bike. Obviously, we can see the difference here is that, you know, the gears are a lot larger than what we see on a road bike.
And that's this huge gear right here helps you climb super steep hills, which on a road bike, there's a lot of steep hill climbing, but roads generally adhere to a certain grade, and you're not going to go above that. And so the road riders don't need as low of a gear back here as a mountain biker would. So you definitely have a lower gear here. You also have suspension on the back of this bike. Now, not all mountain bikes have it, but that's just something you don't need on a road bike. Roads are smooth. On that smooth pavement, you don't need suspension. They don't have it in the back, and they don't have it in the front either. And a road bike's also going to have a really narrow tire. And the narrow tire is so that there's not much friction there, and they roll extremely fast. They also run about 100 PSI in a road bike tire. It's rock hard, and that helps you motivate down that trail or that paved trail or that road. A mountain bike tire, on the other hand, is super chunky and fat to give you lots of friction, because friction equals traction. And so that's going to help you get up and over the rocks and the roots and stuff that you're riding on.
Dave, I appreciate you letting me come out and talk to you about making and tinkering in the real world. It's incredible to find out the number of things that go into a bicycle. I know a lot of us of a certain age remember bicycles when they were very, very simple, and a can of WD-40 and one wrench was about all you needed to keep it going to the baseball field and back.
Yeah, it's a little more complex these days.
Yeah, but it's still really, it's very interesting, and we know that cycling is very big around here in Bentonville, so we appreciate you letting us come out and chat with you and letting us find out about the groovy world of being a bicycle mechanic and shop owner. We'll see you next time with another episode of Making and Tinkering in the Real World. This is Paul from Scott Family Amazeum, and stay tuned. And Dave from Mojo Cycling. And we have had so much fun talking about bikes today. We can't wait to bring you another story about makers and tinkerers in the real world. See you later.